I had the most interesting summer job as a kid. It happened every year when we traveled to Detroit to visit my great uncle. I was the lookout, perched at the front window of his house, eyes trained squarely on our family car, with the responsibility to ensure that it didn't get stolen or end up on cinder blocks. Now, I was 10 at the time, easily distracted by cartoons, and I failed. Twice. My great uncle left behind his family in India in search of a better life. And the neighborhood, as you can see, that he settled in was a little rough. But where most newcomers move on once they get established, my uncle didn't. In fact, he never left. He invested all of his money in people. He sponsored and university educated 14 of our family members and 2 kids from his destitute Detroit neighborhood. He believed in the power of education to unlock human potential. It was a noble but unusual way to live one's life, and most of our family didn't quite understand it, but somehow it came naturally to him. Instead of upgrading his home or his neighborhood, he chose to stay and ask some fundamental questions. Why does it have to be this way? How could it be better? And he dedicated his life to challenging the convention that you are where you are born. My name is Rahul Raj, and I'm the proud grandson of Sundar Singh and the proud son of Baldev and Balbir Raj, a family committed to service. I'm also the founder of Five and Vine, an agency that enables a new breed of socially minded startups to challenge the status quo and be better for the customers they serve, the employees that make that possible, the communities in which they operate, and the planet we all inhabit. Much of my story began right here at Wilfrid Laurier. I started university a bit younger and definitely a bit smaller than average. So it was a little odd when they assigned me to the football dorm. Clearly, I was closer in stature to the football than the actual player. And with the dorm came a meal plan that was way too large. And so like any good immigrant kid, I went to the university and asked if they could right-size my plan and refund the difference. Nice try, they said, but feel free to eat as much as you want. Great. Freshman 50? A lifetime supply of Tic Tacs? Or just a bunch of wasted money sitting on my meal plan? It didn't seem like I had any good options, but it didn't feel right to just let that money go to waste. After sitting on it for a while, I realized, what if I could use all that extra money to feed those in need? And as I mentioned the idea to my friends, they wanted to donate too. I started to imagine hundreds of students taking part and donating, and soon found myself going door to door in the dorm collecting donations. After 5 days, I collected $6,000. I couldn't believe it. Just a couple of weeks earlier, I was so frustrated about my oversized meal plan, and somehow I had the beginnings of a program to help those in need. And that was the beginning of Meal Exchange. Today, that organization coordinates the student movement on campus to ensure that food is healthy, sustainable, just, equitable, and accessible to everyone. And we facilitated the donation of over $5 million to support campus and community food banks. It's been a 25-year journey with many, many challenges associated with it. But it stems from those fundamental questions that I asked. Why does it have to be this way? How could this be better? When I think back to that moment, it would have been so easy to just go with the flow, to accept conventional no's and move on. But by asking why And following the answer, I was able to create something unexpected and incredible. This has been the animating force of my career and journey. I call it challenger thinking. Asking why with the belief that you can challenge convention and make the world better. Now, Meal Exchange whet my palate. It showed me how challenger thinking could be used to reframe a problem and find a solution that was socially beneficial. And I wanted to see how that worked at scale. So I moved to Silicon Valley, and in 2010, I joined Walmart.com to be their head of sustainability. Now, I was hired to promote sustainable business practices, including things like making packaging more green. But I had this feeling that there was something more I could do. Instead of just focusing on the packaging, what about the product itself? I knew that to create an enduring solution, I needed to connect it to the core of Walmart's DNA. So I became a student of the organization. I devoured every book I could on Walmart's history and impact, both positive and negative, and I even had the opportunity to speak with the Walton family. I discovered that their roots were in helping lower-income rural Americans access the same quality and pricing of goods as urban Americans. And they did, largely by selling second-tier brands. But consumers didn't want Emerson cell phones, they wanted iPhones. And so I asked, why does it have to be this way? How could this be better? Now, Walmart had a liberal 30-day return policy, which translated into millions upon millions of customer returns that cost the company billions of dollars. And I wondered, what if we could give some of those items a second life? And so I tested it. I built out a small refurbishing center within one of Walmart's return centers. We triaged the returns, refurbished the highest value ones, and we sold them on Walmart.com. Walmart's leadership was worried that this would erode store sales, but it didn't. It worked. We sold more stuff and made more money. And so we rolled the program out across the entire United States. In addition to refurbishing customer returns, we encouraged customers to bring back their used electronics into stores. We would give them market value in the form of cash that enabled them to buy more stuff they actually needed, like groceries. This program that I created has generated billions in new revenue for Walmart and diverted millions of pounds of electronics from landfill. But I hadn't been hired for this job. I'd been hired to make packaging more green. Yet somehow, once again, by asking why and following that answer, I was able to create an even bigger impact than I'd originally imagined. But what happens when you don't embrace this approach in your professional or personal life? I've come to realize that challenger thinking isn't optional. Either you ask why, or somehow life will find a way to force that question on you. By 2016, I had joined a technology startup, and my aim was to put it on the map. And I did, but the day-to-day experience eroded my happiness. It was a mission-driven company, and yet its toxic culture had become normal to me. That spring, our family was confronted with an overwhelming amount of tragedy. A murder, a suicide, death by heart attack, and my father was given months to live. It was devastating. And it forced me to ask a bunch of questions that I should have been asking all along. Why doesn't this job make me happy, even though it's supposed to? Why doesn't this culture feel right, even when it's the norm? Why is this the best way to spend my time? And as I sat with my grief, I came across a quote from Jim Rohn that said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Let me say that one more time. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I didn't know how much time I had, but I knew I didn't want to waste it. And I wanted to find or create an environment to engage with my 5. Those that would help raise my average with their intellect, their humanity, and their drive. Life forced that lesson on me because I hadn't listened to that nagging feeling. The challenges that I tolerated had become normal, part of my everyday reality. And the value of challenger thinking became clearer. Either be a challenger today, or you will be challenged tomorrow. When you step back and look at the world writ large, you see a number of traumas that have developed slowly and now appear normal, just like the workplace culture I escaped 5 years ago. It feels like we're in one of those moments where something will activate our challenger thinking. Our very existence is under threat because of climate change. Science and truth are being challenged by opinion and fake news. Our human connection to one another is being challenged by nationalism. And our self-worth and happiness is being challenged by the constant comparison to others on social media. These slowly unfolding issues are now a normal facet of our everyday reality. And these issues, they were created by all of us, collectively pursuing the conventional definition of success and not asking why. Why doesn't it make me happy, even if it's supposed to? Why doesn't it feel right, even when it's the norm? Why is this the best way to spend my time? So in the end, I want to leave you with this. The next time you find yourself uncomfortable with how things are going, don't ignore it. Take the time to feel uncomfortable, to be bothered by that excess money on your meal plan, that narrow mandate from your employer, or that toxic culture, and let that feeling grow. Take the time to feel uncomfortable, because that discomfort you feel is the breeding ground for challenger thinking. Ask yourself, why does it have to be this way? How could this be better? And then do something about it. Act, speak up, and build up your confidence to move from a series of small actions to planning for bigger ones. Accept that you will fail, because it will happen. But it's the only way you'll make progress. Embracing challenger thinking means embracing discomfort, but you use that discomfort to propel you forward. Let that feeling become the force that guides you to ask hard questions and change the world for the better. And start thinking and acting like a challenger. Thank you.